Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Neo4j Connected Intelligence. I'm Keaton Crow, the Partner Marketing Manager here at Neo4j. In this series, we explore how graph technology integrates with the broader AI ecosystem to solve complex data challenges. Today, we're focusing on mastering Neo4j within the Microsoft AI ecosystem. Joining me are Ben Lackey, Senior Director of Partner Architecture at Neo4j, and Yui Nikoria, Partner Technology Strategist at Microsoft. I'm glad to have both of you here. We have a tight session planned, so Ben and Yui are going to start with a brief overview and then dive into a demo of Neo4j Aura on Microsoft Azure. If you have any questions at any point, just drop them in the chat. I'll be monitoring those throughout the stream. Let's jump in.
Thanks, Keaton. Yui, I'll hand over to you.
Awesome, thank you. So Neo4j has been on the Microsoft Marketplace since 2017, and it's been approved for several programs here, such as the IP co-sell, the CSD designation, Parker, and ESIF. Neo4j Aura integrates with a number of our services, such as Azure Kubernetes, Azure Databricks, Foundry, and Microsoft Fabric. Over to you, Ben.
Yeah, so Neo4j has been working with Microsoft for a long time, as Yui mentioned, and we have a number of joint customers, over 900 different joint customers using Neo4j on Microsoft Azure. And these are some of the public references we have. Notable ones are, funny enough, Microsoft themselves using us for some security use cases. We also have pharmaceutical companies like Novo Nordisk with use cases around drug discovery. And another really common use case you see a lot are bill of material and supply chain kind of use cases. So all sorts of neat things people do with our product. The commonality tends to be connections in data and finding value from those connections. I'll hand back to Yui to speak a little more about using Neo4j on Azure.
Amazing. So to use Neo4j's Aura solution, you can actually deploy the solution right from the Microsoft Marketplace. You just hit the Get It Now button. And just like that, you have access to a fully managed, always-on graph database as a service designed for AI-driven and context-rich applications.
Thanks, Yui. And yeah, we'll do this live in a minute, so you'll see exactly how it works. Digging a little deeper, once you have a Neo4j deployed, there's this kind of interesting question: how do you get data in and out? How do you interact with other systems? So we have here this diagram showing Neo4j Aura, which consists of a number of different components. One is the core graph database, and then around that are some additional components, an Explorer component that offers business intelligence-like interface, but very focused on graphs. Similarly, we have a graph analytics component that provides 60 some odd graph algorithms, implementations of algorithms that can run on top of the graphs, doing things like finding out about centrality or shortest path, as an example. So that's the core Neo4j part. Then it integrates with a bunch of different Azure components. One very common one is we'll find our customers have data in blob storage, and we then pull that data into Neo4j, and working from that flat file, build a graph out of it. So you can find more value from those connections I mentioned. We have a connector for BI that lets you pull data into Power BI. For real-time messaging, we're able to connect into Service Bus. And then just as a database, we have all the drivers you would typically expect, things like .NET and Java and Python, making it possible to write applications that read and write to and from the database. Pull data into Power BI. For real-time messaging, we're able to connect into Service Bus. And then just as a database, we have all the drivers you would typically expect, things like .NET and Java and Python, making it possible to write applications that read and write to and from the database. And those can run in places like functions or container apps, or even on plain old virtual machines. A newer thing we're really excited about is we've been working with the Fabric team at Microsoft, and we've created a Fabric workload that can create a graph on top of the data you have in your Fabric OneLake environment. So that, once again, is another way to get value out of the connections in your data that you might otherwise miss with different approaches. We have a very mature Spark connector, and that's used a lot with Azure Databricks, though it can also communicate with other Spark-based systems. And in this, I kind of saved the best for last. Microsoft's been focusing a lot on Foundry with a number of child services underneath that, like the Azure OpenAI service. And these AI services have really unlocked a lot of new use cases. One way I like to think about those use cases is with this diagram. So we have kind of a two-part data flow. One part's on the left. So you have a bunch of data sources, unstructured, structured, semi-structured data. And you might want to build a knowledge graph out of that, once again, to get value from these connections in the data. And one way to do that is to feed that through the AI and Foundry, asking it to extract entities and the connections from that data and then load it into Neo4j, using AI to automatically build a knowledge graph. So that's the left side of the diagram there. Once you have that knowledge graph in place, you can build all sorts of applications to make use of it. And some examples are given in this slide, but it's essentially the same model as before. That application makes a query into the AI, which then passes that on to the database. So that's sort of the data flow model of how this all works. Stepping on and thinking about agents a bit, with that data flow, it allows you to orchestrate these more complex systems, with Neo4j acting as a knowledge layer, storing ontologies, data, and memory, and then orchestrating across all these systems to enable intelligent applications, autonomous agents, and agentic tools. And we're seeing that a lot with customers deploying our MCP server to interact with all these systems and build up these agentic flows. Right. So that brings us to demo time. I'm going to flip over to a different tab. And here I have the Microsoft Marketplace open. And I'm just going to search for Neo4j. And in here, you can see a whole bunch of different listings. 4 of these are from Neo4j. Some others take Neo4j's open source product and list those as well. Enterprise Edition is our self-managed product, and this deploys underneath an ARM template where you can manage the infrastructure in your own Azure tenant. Similarly, Community Edition deploys our Community Edition product in that manner. Then there are 2 other options for Neo4j Aura. And Aura is Neo4j's SaaS product. So this deploys the fully managed SaaS product, just gives you a database endpoint, an admin API, and we handle all the administration and the resilience and fault tolerance and all that stuff for you, so you don't have to worry about it. So there are 2 listings here. One is an annual commitment, and one is pay as you go, meaning if you deploy it, it's fully click to deploy, and then you only pay for it as you use it by the hour. So I'm going to click on that one, and you can see here the listing. It says it's a SaaS. Sure enough, it also says by Neo4j, and it says it's Azure benefit eligible. That means it'll burn down against any commitments you might have with Microsoft. And then there are some details on it, some screenshots, of pretty graphs and how the thing works and the UIs. So if I want to deploy this, I just click on Get It Now, and I choose the plan. In this case, there's only one plan for Paygo, and I just click here, and it takes me over to the Azure portal. The Microsoft Marketplace is kind of interesting that it has these public pages, and now it has this logged in page within the Azure portal, which is also where I deploy other Azure things. So I have my subscription, and then I'm going to say create a new resource group. I'm going to call it like Ben Marketplace Subscriptions, probably a reasonable name. And I need a name for the SaaS subscription again. I'm going to call it the same thing, Ben Marketplace Subscription. And the rest, I take all the defaults. I can optionally tag this thing, but I don't really need to. And then it validates that. New message about a new invoicing policy. And my information is passed through here. And the last thing I do is I just hit subscribe. And then that takes a few minutes to enable the subscription and so forth. And once that's done, I can click through and go on to configure the account. There we go. Ben Marketplace subscription subscribed. It says configure the account. So I'm going to click here, and now it punches out, is the technical term, of the Azure Marketplace at this point and the Azure portal. And I'm given a choice of auth. Since we're on Microsoft, I'm going to pass through with my Microsoft credentials, and it drops me into the Neo4j Aura console. So I've passed out my Marketplace billing credentials. I've landed in this new Neo4j Aura environment where I can deploy things and work with the product. And I already have this default project it created. And looks like my billing profile isn't set up, so I won't be able to create an instance here, but you likely would, punching out and passing through your billing profile. So with that brief demo of how that all works, I'm going to flip back to the slides here and pass it over to Keaton to wrap this up.
All right. Thanks, Ben and Yui. We really appreciate you sharing your insights today. You can find Neo4j on the Azure Marketplace to quickly deploy and get started. If you'd like to explore the documentation or see more use cases, resource links have been provided. If you have any specific questions or want to keep the conversation going, please reach out to the team at ecosystem@neo4j.com. All right. Thanks, Ben and Yui. We really appreciate you sharing your insights today. You can find Neo4j on the Azure Marketplace to quickly deploy and get started. If you'd like to explore the documentation or see more use cases, resource links have been provided. If you have any specific questions or want to keep the conversation going, please reach out